May 24, 1945. Franz Ziereis lay in a hospital bed in Gusen, Austria, inside the Mauthausen camp complex in Upper Austria. 3 bullet wounds kept his stomach bleeding through the sheets. His hands trembled. The bed held him upright. American military officers sat beside him with notebooks open, and they kept recording every word for 6 straight hours. No one stopped writing. Those hands had signed death orders for tens of thousands of people across the camp. He was the commandant of Mauthausen. Gusen was part of that complex. He admitted to gas killings, freezing murders, and dogs trained to tear prisoners apart. He also said he let his young son shoot at living human beings for entertainment. He named Heinrich Himmler. He named the Gestapo chief. Then he put his own name beside theirs. 90 minutes after the interrogation ended, Franz Ziereis died. Franz Ziereis was dead. Long before his name reached American notebooks, the road upward had opened in Berlin for men ready to serve the new regime and rise inside it. Berlin came first. On January 30th, 1933, Adolf Hitler became Chancellor of Germany. That was the date. The appointment did not stay in Berlin for long. It moved fast. Hitler had chased power since the failed beer hall putsch of 1923, and that attempt collapsed before it could topple the state. He spent 9 months in prison. There, he dictated Mein Kampf. 10 years earlier, prison had held Hitler. Now the regime opened prison space for its enemies. The failed putsch had sent one man to a cell. Office now gave the regime guards, keys, and legal cover. Within weeks of taking power, Hitler's government began stripping Jewish citizens of legal rights through decrees and official decisions. The orders came through offices and signatures, not street speeches alone. On March 22, 1933, Dachau opened just outside Munich as the regime's first concentration camp. 2 days before the opening, Heinrich Himmler announced it in public. The first prisoners were political opponents. Communists arrived. So did socialists, journalists, clergy, and others who resisted the regime. A post now mattered. Inside this new world of orders, files, guard towers, and camp authority, a job title could mean direct power over prisoners. By the end of Nazi rule, camps, subcamps, ghettos, and detention sites had grown to more than 44,000 across occupied Europe. Behind that count stood one service file: Franz Xaver Ziereis, born in Munich on August 13, 1905. The file looks ordinary. The country did not. Post-war Germany lived under the Treaty of Versailles, and the treaty cut the Reichswehr to 100,000 men. Unemployment hit working-class families hard, and Munich carried the strain of defeat and political turmoil. He was 18. On April 1, 1924, Ziereis entered the Reichswehr. He chose military service. Then, power shifted. After Hitler took office in 1933, the same career path pointed in a new direction. In September 1936, his military record reached the next step: an SS uniform and training for camp service. That turn now had paperwork. In September 1936, Ziereis left the regular army, entered the SS, the Schutzstaffel, and received the rank of SS Obersturmführer. The transfer took him out of ordinary army service and into camp instruction. He went to the Totenkopf formations as a training instructor. Theodor Eicke had created those formations in 1934. He helped kill Ernst Röhm and later became the first commandant of Dachau. Under Eicke, the lesson was direct. Prisoners were enemies of the state, meant to be broken, exploited, and destroyed. A guard who showed mercy showed weakness, and weakness could be punished. The rules spread beyond one training post. At the outbreak of the Second World War, the Totenkopf formations counted 24,000 men. By January 1945, they counted 40,000, posted across the concentration camps. That growth now moved across a border. In March 1938, 2 years after joining the SS, Ziereis entered Austria with the Totenkopf mobile units. From March 11th to 13th, Hitler annexed Austria. in the move called the Anschluss. It was the regime's first territorial conquest since taking power. In Vienna, the streets turned into a welcome procession, and thousands raised their arms as Wehrmacht columns passed under showers of flowers. Hitler had been born in Austria. Many in the crowd greeted him as a man returning home. The same hours exposed the other side of the annexation. Austria had about 200,000 Jews. Violence began almost at once. Austrian Nazis who had worked underground now moved openly through the streets, and Jewish men and women were pulled from their homes and forced to scrub pro-Austrian slogans from the pavement with toothbrushes. Crowds stood over them. People mocked them, watched them, and took photographs. The attacks spread fast. Synagogues were smashed. Businesses were looted. Jewish professionals lost their jobs on the spot, including doctors, lawyers, and professors. Soon, families lined up outside foreign embassies, asking for visas to anywhere that would take them. Britain, France, and the United States watched the Anschluss without direct intervention. Hitler noticed that silence, and he measured what it allowed. That silence cleared the way for another promotion. On February 9, 1939, Theodor Eicke, inspector of the concentration camps, appointed Franz Ziereis commandant of Mauthausen. The camp stood in Upper Austria, about 20 kilometers east of Linz. His predecessor was removed. The reason was lenient treatment of prisoners. Mauthausen had opened in August 1938. At first, it received German and Austrian men the regime marked as enemies. One place defined the camp: a granite quarry and 186 uneven stone steps cut into the cliff. Every day, starving prisoners carried granite blocks weighing up to 50 kilograms up those steps while guards watched from above. A stumble meant blows. A collapse meant bullets. Then clerks entered 4 words in the file: shot while attempting to escape. Ziereis signed the record. Those papers did not stay inside one quarry. In May 1940, Gusen opened beside Mauthausen, and Ziereis's authority moved beyond the main camp. Dozens of subcamps spread across Upper Austria, and each outpost led back to the same command desk. By 1941, Mauthausen had a gas chamber. Survivors later described killings by gas, by hunger, by benzene injections into the heart, and by exposure in -12 degrees Celsius, a temperature below freezing. The record stays dry. Guards stripped prisoners, left them outside, and waited for the cold to finish the work. A trained German shepherd named Lord was kept in the camp, and prisoners were pushed into its path until some were mauled to death. Several survivors also said Ziereis let his elementary school son fire a small-caliber weapon at prisoners. Post-war testimony, surviving records, and Ziereis's own confession fixed these daily killings at the top of camp authority. The orders, the reach, and the repetition all point to the commandant, not to a few men acting alone. From August 1938 to May 1945, about 197,000 prisoners passed through the Mauthausen camp complex. At least 95,000 died, and more than 14,000 of the dead were Jewish. By April, the death count was still climbing. In Upper Austria, between Mauthausen and nearby Gusen, SS orders kept moving downward, even as the Reich itself came apart. Soviet forces were closing on Berlin from the east, while American and British armies drove in from the west. Inside the barracks, that collapse meant more killing. At Gusen, capos acting on direct SS orders beat several hundred prisoners to death in a single month. Then came the gas. In the last days of April, the SS killed 650 critically ill prisoners inside a barracks. SS leaders and Nazi officials in Upper Austria also discussed driving the surviving prisoners into underground weapons tunnels, cut by forced labor, and blowing the tunnels up, but the plan collapsed with the command above them. That collapse left Franz Ziereis with one move left. On the 3rd of May, 2 days before American troops reached the camp, he took his wife and vanished into the mountains of Upper Austria. He hid in a remote hunting lodge in the Fern Range. For 20 days he stayed out of sight. American soldiers found him on the 23rd of May. Ziereis broke from cover and tried to run. They shot him 3 times in the stomach, then carried him to a United States military hospital in Gusen, back inside the camp he had commanded. He was dying when interrogators came the next day. For more than 6 hours, they took a record, not a farewell. The names, methods, and scenes all went into that bedside statement. Ziereis named Heinrich Himmler, Ernst Kaltenbrunner, and Heinrich Müller as the superiors who gave the killing orders. He also placed himself inside the murders. He admitted gas chambers, benzene injections, freezing deaths, forced marches, beatings, shootings, and killings done with his own hands. He described the stares of death, the dog, and winter nights when naked prisoners stood outside until their hearts stopped. 90 minutes after the interrogation ended, Ziereis died. He was 39. That death in the hospital did not close the scene. Survivors from Mauthausen, men starved, beaten, gassed, frozen, and worked to the edge of death, took Franz Ziereis' body. They stripped him and carried him to the barbed wire fence at Gusen. Red paint came first. Heil Hitler went across his back. Swastikas were painted on the body, and he hung there for several days on the wire he had once used to cage prisoners. The spring air moved the corpse back and forth. Decay set in, and the smell became unbearable. Then a U.S. Army officer ordered it removed. No ceremony, no grave marker, no mourners. Only wire, silence, and 95,000 dead. Gusen's wire leads back to a personnel file. Franz Ziereis was the son of a carpenter from Munich, and the record shows deliberate, documented choices, not fate. He did not arrive as a myth or a ghost. He moved through a career by accepting posts, orders, and power. At each step, he chose service, rank, obedience, and murder carried out under commands he helped enforce. The Holocaust came from men with names, uniforms, families, and private ambitions, who treated cruelty as duty and turned paperwork into death. The names stay in the file. 95,000 dead remained behind him, and his body stayed on Gusen's wire until a United States Army officer ordered it removed.